What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, February 19th, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. So, before I get into the breaking news, I want to just quickly say happy birthday to one of the moderators here, Kin Koi. Happy birthday to you. I hope you enjoy your birthday celebrations tonight, and I wish you all the best in the coming year. So we have some breaking news coming in from Fox News. Fox News is reporting that the number of Chinese illegal immigrants crossing the southern border illegally has skyrocketed by 4,000% since 2021. And since October of 2023, there have been over 20,000 encounters with illegal immigrants on the border. 20,000 encounters, guys. That's insane. Okay. I bet most of them are spies and sleeper agents. Okay. We also have some breaking news being reported by CNN. CNN is citing Ukrainian and Russian military sources who are saying that Russia has assembled a 50,000 man army in southern Ukraine in the Zaporizhia region, and that they are continuing to build their forces. Now, in my previous update today, I reported that the Russians are advancing in 5 directions now. They are also threatening the city of Robotine, which Ukraine worked very hard to capture last year. And now they're diverting their forces there to try to take it back from the Ukrainians. But 50,000 men, guys, that is huge. And this week is the week of the 2-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine. Okay, so it's very possible that Russia is going to launch a massive ground invasion again on the anniversary. Okay, a massive counterattack on the ground. 50,000 men, guys. That's just in the Zaporizhia region alone. That's the southern part of Ukraine, just north of Crimea. And there's also been sources reporting for the past few weeks that Russia's been assembling a 30,000 man army in southwestern Russia. Okay. And I reported in my update earlier that the Russians and the Belarusians have been training all week at every single training ground in Belarus together. And they've also been bringing in military equipment on cargo planes from Russia into Belarus. Okay. So Putin may have a surprise for Ukraine this week. Okay. The anniversary of the invasion is on the 24th. That's just 5 days away. That's this Friday. So I'm going to be streaming live 24/7 this coming weekend and the end of the week because I think Russia's going to do something serious. Okay. And I want to just show you guys some flight paths. Right now, we have a U.S. nuclear war command and control plane up in the air over the heartland. We also have a U.S. high priority reconnaissance plane flying near Taiwan. It's going by the call sign of John 38, and this is a RC-135U combat Sentinel plane. And the U.S. military only has 2 of these, and they provide intelligence directly to the president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the top generals in the U.S. So if they have one of these planes going somewhere, it means something serious is about to happen. So this is probably the 10th time that we've seen this combat scent flying around Taiwan or South Korea. Okay, it looks like it took off from Okinawa and it went directly towards Taiwan and Hong Kong. But this is very concerning, guys. And we know now that the U.S. is going to be deploying nearly half of their aircraft carriers to the Western Pacific. This was reported by the South China Morning Post. Okay, 5 out of 11 aircraft carriers are going to the Western Pacific, guys. That is huge. We also have a U.S. Army reconnaissance plane flying along the North Korean border here in South Korea. Let me just show you guys this nuclear war command and control plane that was up in the air all evening. Very interesting flight path, basically doing sort of like a circle around the entire heartland here. And these planes are responsible for remotely launching all of our Minuteman III ICBMs. And they can also communicate with our submerged nuclear armed submarines. And I want to just show you guys these French nuclear capable fighter jets that were patrolling through the Baltics today along the border with Russia and Belarus. They made 2 sorties today in the Baltics with the same French Mirage 2000. Okay. These are conventionally armed during peacetime scenarios, but they are able to accept French nuclear armed cruise missiles, which normally go on the Mirage 2000N fighter jets. But these fighter jets can be armed with nuclear weapons. They're normally armed with long range precision conventional weapons. Okay. And this is probably the 5th or 6th time we've seen this plane flying in the Baltics along the Russian border in the last week. Here was its first sortie today. Okay, you can see it flying along the Russian and Belarusian border. And we had a U.S. sub-Hunter plane patrolling the Baltics as well this afternoon and early this evening. And it was doing loops off the coast of Kaliningrad, which is a Russian province. Okay. And right now, as of 8:17 p.m., we have a U.S. Air Force C-17 going to northern Norway from Ramstein. And earlier today, we had a NATO cargo plane go up to northern Norway as well from Germany. Okay, so a lot of equipment is being moved around to the frontiers of the NATO alliance. Okay, they're moving equipment up to the northern part of Scandinavia. They're moving equipment to Poland and the Baltics. So they're gearing up, guys. They're preparing for a possible invasion, which I think could happen this year, any month now. Okay, I think Russia could go after the Baltics and Scandinavia, especially the northern part of Scandinavia that's not very populated. And Israeli News 12 is reporting that senior commanders of Hezbollah are evacuating to secret bunkers with their families due to fear of an imminent Israeli ground invasion of Lebanon. And this comes after the massive Israeli strategic airstrike on Lebanon earlier today on what appeared to be a weapons storage depot 60 kilometers deep into Lebanon. The strike can be seen as a preparation for a ground invasion into Lebanon. And the Houthis have attacked 2 U.S.-linked ships in the Gulf of Aden with naval missiles today. An official statement by the Yemen army said the naval forces of the Yemeni armed forces carried out, with the help of Allah, 2 specific military operations in which they targeted 2 American ships in the Gulf of Aden. The first was the Sea Champion and the other was Navis Fortuna. The targeting operation was carried out with a number of appropriate naval missiles. During the past 24 hours, we sank a British ship and targeted a U.S. MQ-9 drone in the airspace of Western Yemen, in addition to targeting the 2 American ships. Okay, so the Houthis are now confirming that they sank the British ship, they downed the U.S. MQ-9 drone, and then they targeted 2 American ships. So it's really spiraling out of control, guys. Where's our leadership? Okay, what's going on here? Okay, why are they doing all these things and we're not responding at all? This is really, really concerning, and it's only going to get worse. And we're also hearing reports from Yemen sources this evening that there were new U.S. and British airstrikes on Houthi positions this evening. Apparently, they targeted the Sardad farm located in the Al Qadan area in Al Dihi. And the Ambri Maritime Security Company said a cargo ship has suffered material damage after being targeted by a drone in the Red Sea area. Okay. U.S. officials have confirmed today that the MQ-9 Reaper drone was in fact taken down by the Houthis in western Yemen, most likely with air defenses. Okay, so guys, those drones are worth millions and millions of dollars. Okay, just because they're a drone, we're not talking about a cheap drone here. We're talking about a very sophisticated plane, okay, worth millions and millions of dollars. And a U.S. military base in eastern Syria was apparently attacked today with rockets. And the U.S. military has acknowledged that Yemeni forces have deployed underwater drones for the first time in their pro-Palestine operations amid tensions in the Red Sea. The U.S. Central Command said the drones presented an imminent threat to the U.S. Navy ships in the area and that it was the first time U.S. forces have seen an underwater drone deployed by Yemen. Wow, guys. Okay, so they're expanding the types of weapons that they're using now. Okay, they started with airborne drones, then they were using missiles, now they're using underwater drones. They also used surface vessels that were drones as well. Okay, and I'm sure they have a whole lot of other weapons that they're getting from Iran. And this update was sponsored by Patriot Supply. Guys, Patriot Supply is doing a discount on their 1 month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to go to preparewithnyprepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. This is a 1 month freeze-dried food supply. It has a 25-year shelf life. Normal price is $237. They've dropped it down to $177. So that's a savings of $60. And it's all packed within 2 rugged, water-resistant buckets. Free shipping is included. $177 for 1 month of food. Where are you going to find a deal like that? They also have a general store, and they're always running discounts in their general store on various prepping and survival items. They have everything from MREs, potassium iodide, to survival seeds. And to get to their general store, you got to click on the Patriot Supply logo at the top of the page when you get to preparewithnyprepper.com. And you'll see when you get there, they have everything you can imagine. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get $60 off the Patriot Supply 1 month emergency food supply. That's $180 for 1 month of food, free shipping included. The link is in the description below this video. And also check out their general store. They have everything you can imagine prepping and survival related, and they're always running various discounts there. And the Iranian IRGC naval intelligence platform, the Bashad, just left the shores of Djibouti after 17 days of calming down their activities in the Gulf of Aden. The U.S. recently warned Iran that they would consider the possibility of carrying out airstrikes on that Iranian intelligence ship, which was the reason why it was so close to Djibouti for the last 17 days. So very interesting. And we have reports from Fox News that 12 cartel members were killed by Mexican soldiers in a shootout near the Texas border. And a senior official of Hezbollah warned that any potential attack by Israel on Lebanon would lead to a defeat. Sheikh Nabil Kwak, a member of Hezbollah's executive council, said on Monday if the aim of expanding the Israeli aggression to Lebanon is to escape defeat, it will lead to a deeper and bigger defeat. And if the aim is to prolong the political life of Netanyahu, I should say that any war with Lebanon would have only one result, and that would be an acceleration in their defeat and the fall of Netanyahu. He also threatened that every point in Israel is within the range of our missiles. And apparently Hezbollah tunnels are more advanced and more dangerous than the Gaza tunnels, according to French newspaper Liberation. The tunnel system in the southern part of Lebanon apparently runs hundreds of kilometers up to the border of Israel and even into Israel. And launchers can fire precision-guided missiles from there and then disappear. And apparently Russia is building a new military base in the Golan Heights on the Syrian side of the Golan Heights. That is very concerning, and that is biblical, guys. Okay, the Bible says that Russia, Iran, Syria, and all the Middle Eastern Muslim nations will form an alliance and try to attack Israel. Okay, and now Russia is literally building a new military base right on the border of Israel in Syria. Very, very concerning. And the EU is discussing creating an alternative to NATO if Trump wins the US presidential election, according to the Washington Post. These conversations began after Trump's words about encouraging attacks on alliance countries if they do not fulfill their financial obligations. And submarines of the Russian Northern Fleet held a training duel in the Barents Sea, according to Russian state media TASS. During the exercises, submariners practiced searching for and covertly tracking a mock enemy. Nuclear submarines of the Northern Fleet conducted an underwater duel. The maneuvers took place at depths of over 100 meters without the use of naval weapons. The main task was to practice tactics when contacting an underwater enemy, the report says. Wow. So Russia practicing underwater duels with their nuclear submarines. And Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Yuri Trutnev, who is responsible for the country's Arctic policy, believes that Russian rights in Svalbard, Norway are under pressure. That was said in a commission meeting in Moscow, drawing parallels to the war in Ukraine. Trutnev said, according to transcripts of the meeting, "Today our soldiers are sacrificing blood for the sovereignty of our country and for people's right to speak Russian. I believe that our work in government in this area should be treated in the same way as a fight for our sovereignty, a fight for Russia and our rights." So he's referring to basically fighting in Svalbard for Russian rights. Absolutely crazy. On several occasions, Russia has expressed dissatisfaction with the Svalbard Treaty from 1920, which ensures Norway's full and unrestricted sovereignty over Svalbard. Russian authorities believe that Norway places too strong restrictions on Russian business activity and scientific activity on the archipelago. So very interesting, guys. Russia wants Svalbard now, and Svalbard is also heavily militarized by NATO. NATO has a lot of radar stations there and satellite ground control stations. They have a massive radar installation there and a comms installation there. So it's very critical for NATO. And a drone factory in Lviv on the border with Poland was apparently attacked by saboteurs today. And apparently this factory produces up to 5,000 drones in a month. And Japan said they would provide $13 billion in aid to Ukraine. And there is a potential breakthrough on German delivery of Taurus long-range cruise missiles to Ukraine. So some good news for Ukraine there. $13 billion from Japan, potentially Taurus cruise missiles. And Biden said today they might give the long-range ATACMS missiles to Ukraine for the HIMARS, the 300-kilometer range ATACMS missile, which I thought they already gave them, but I guess they only gave them the cluster warheads for that one, which is basically kind of useless because that limits it to anti-personnel use. And Ukraine needs some anti-material capabilities. They need a singular, massive warhead so they can destroy bases and bunkers and infrastructure of the Russian occupying forces. And we have an interesting update about the Russian helicopter pilot who defected to Ukraine and then was later assassinated in Spain. Apparently, he called his ex-girlfriend in Russia and provided her the location of his address in Spain. And apparently his lines must have been tapped. And that's how the Russian secret services found where he was located. And this is a big lesson to preppers, okay? You don't want to use cell phones for critical communication nowadays, okay? Any kind of electronic devices you want to avoid, okay? Because everything is monitored now. So if you do have to use a cell phone for communication, get a burner phone. And Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Cuban Foreign Minister Parilla met in Havana, Cuba for discussions today. We don't know what they're going to be talking about, but Cuba is a communist country, guys. Okay, we're basically still in the Cold War. The Cold War never really truly ended, okay? This is Cold War 2.0. And I want to just read to you what Mark Levin tweeted this evening at 6:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark Levin, the famous conservative talk show host, he tweeted, Russia is gaining on Ukraine, which is running out of certain crucial weaponry and having to pull back from areas it had controlled and faces losing the war Russia started. Is that okay with everyone? Ukraine is a relatively small country without the capacity for a large industrial economy in which it can build the needed weapons. This is not theoretical, this is reality. NATO countries border Ukraine, and if Putin moves on any of them, then what? He has said in the past that he is eyeing Poland, Romania, and the Baltic states. This is a grave situation. Wow, guys. So Mark Levin taking a firm stance, okay, saying this is a grave situation and that we need to do whatever we can to prevent Russia from taking the rest of Ukraine and making more gains. Okay, he is a solid conservative, guys. Okay, Mark Levin is a solid conservative. And I want to just play this video to you from Biden in Delaware. And he talks about the situation in Ukraine.
The idea that we're going to walk away from Ukraine, the idea that we're going to let NATO begin to split, is totally against the interests of the United States of America, and it is against our word we've given since all the way back to Eisenhower. So it's about time we make sure that Congress come home and pass the legislation funding NATO. It's critical. So the idea.
All right, so he's doubling down on the funding for NATO. And here we have a picture coming out of Western Ukraine. This is that drone factory that was apparently blown up in some kind of a sabotage attack. Okay, here we have a picture of one of the Hezbollah tunnels in southern Lebanon. Look how deep that thing goes down. Just reminds me of like some of the Call of Duty levels. Absolutely insane. And here's the location of that Iranian intelligence ship as of 1500 hours UTC time today. You can see that it moved away from Djibouti, and it looks like it's going to head back out into the Gulf of Aden to help the Houthis gather information on their targets. That's what this ship is there for. Apparently, the U.S. conducted a cyber attack against it. Not sure I believe that, though, or how effective it was, at least. The Philippine and U.S. Air Forces conducted a joint patrol over the Philippine Sea today. 3 Philippine F-A-50 fighter jets and 1 B-52 from the U.S. Air Force from Guam were involved. Wow, guys, that is huge, okay? The U.S. sending a B-52 to the Philippines to do a joint patrol over the Philippine Sea with 3 Philippine fighter jets, guys. Okay, so the Western Pacific is the wild card here. We know that there's going to be war in Europe. That's imminent. We know there's going to be war in the Middle East. That's imminent. Okay, there's already a small war, but it's going to escalate to Israel versus Lebanon, and then eventually Iran, and then potentially the U.S. denuclearizing Iran and launching a massive strike on Iran. That's coming. Okay, war with NATO over the Baltics, Poland, Romania, Moldova is going to happen. But the wild card is Asia. When is Asia going to pop off? Okay, are they going to all sit down together? Russia, Iran, China, are they all going to sit down together and say, okay, now it's your turn, North Korea. We want you to open up another front. Okay, and then after North Korea opens a front, then maybe China's going to open a front in Taiwan. And then maybe after that, Russia's going to invade NATO. Okay, and after the U.S. is occupied with Taiwan and South Korea, then Russia's going to go after NATO. That would be the perfect timing, right? Because we would be defending South Korea, defending Taiwan. We're obligated by treaty to defend South Korea, Taiwan, and also the Philippines. Okay, so if any of those countries get attacked, we have to send forces there. And that opens up Russia to make moves on Ukraine, to make moves on the Baltics, to make moves on Scandinavia, to make moves on Romania and Moldova and Georgia. Okay. So we have to wait and see what happens, but this is all a big game of chess. Okay. Putin and Xi Jinping and Kim Jong un and the Ayatollah Khomeini and all these other leaders, they're playing chess and Biden is playing checkers. Okay. But the wild card is Asia. We have to see what happens with Asia. And the South China Morning Post, citing an official report, is stating that the U.S. will be sending 5 out of 11 aircraft carriers, or nearly half of the carrier fleet, to the Western Pacific due to increased threats from North Korea and China. That is insane, guys. And the Chinese Coast Guard today sent 4 patrol ships to Taiwan's Kinmen Island, located just a few miles from the Chinese mainland. And you can see this Chinese Coast Guard vessel here just circling around Kinmen Island. Now, Kinmen Island is where we sent Green Berets just a few weeks ago. Okay, the U.S. sent Green Berets to Kinmen Island. For what reason, we don't know. To train the Taiwan army, to conduct black ops, I have no idea, okay? But China's obviously very concerned about it, and they're keeping a close eye on Kinmen Island now, all right? And prisoners at the prison where Navalny was killed reported mysterious commotion the night before Navalny died. This is coming from Novaya Europa, citing inmate testimonies. It all started when they really sped up our evening search. This usually happens on holidays when the guards are in a hurry to go and celebrate, but yesterday wasn't a holiday. Then they locked us up, forbade any movement between barracks and tightened security. We heard cars drive onto the prison grounds late at night, but couldn't see through our cell windows what they were doing. Guards conducted an in-depth search of the prisoners' cells first thing the next morning, seizing phones, decks of cards, and even coil heaters, which they had previously turned a blind eye to. The guards made it sound like there was an outside inspection coming up. Usually both the administration and the inmates find out about such inspections about a month in advance and prepare for them, because neither the guards nor the prisoners want the inspectors to find any violations. And so we were expecting an inspection out of the blue. Something must have happened. The punishment cell area that Navalny had been placed in is located somewhat to the side of the barracks, but we would have seen an ambulance drive up to it, but there was no ambulance in the colony that morning. It only appeared after the news of Navalny's death became known, so I think he died a lot earlier than what was stated officially, the night before, most likely. Why else would they completely lock us up and search us so thoroughly? In the afternoon, several cars drove up to the administration unit. One was from the IK-18 prison. So very interesting, guys. Maybe they didn't actually kill Navalny in that prison. Maybe they locked all the prisoners down and searched everything, and then they exfiltrated Navalny out of the prison, and they killed him somewhere on the side of the road, for all we know, you know? And apparently Nikki Haley is going to deliver a speech tomorrow at noon Eastern time about the state of the presidential race. So we don't know if she's going to be quitting, because the polls are not looking the best right now in South Carolina. And that would be a bad situation for her if she lost her home state. So we'll have to wait and see if she's going to drop out or not. We'll find out tomorrow at noontime. And here we have an AWACS plane operated by the U.S. flying along the North Korean border in South Korea. And I want to just show you guys some of the latest radiation readings across the U.S. and Europe. You can see we have some low readings right now, so that's good. We don't have any unusual things going on. I'm going to continue to monitor this for you and update you if there's any unusual spikes in radiation around the world. I will let you know, but right now it's pretty quiet. And same thing in Ukraine. We're not seeing any unusual spikes anywhere across Ukraine, with the exception of Chernobyl. It's very high over there, obviously, but Everywhere else, it's looking pretty normal, including around the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. But I'll keep an eye on it for you guys. If anything changes here, especially in Zaporizhia, I'll let you know. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back tomorrow with more breaking news. So make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell icon down below so you get notified when I post these updates. And until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.